Welcome to the Being Resilient podcast with your host, Stephanie Olson. Hello, and welcome to the Being Resilient podcast. I'm Stephanie Olson, and today we have a special rant to do. I'm here with Yolanda Harden, and you've met Yolanda before as a guest on the podcast talking about her story, but most importantly, Yolanda is my right arm, my everything work. You're like my work wife is what you are, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as many of you know, my real job is running an organization called the Set Me Free Project, and we do prevention education on human trafficking, social media safety, and healthy relationships. And Yolanda is our director of operations and programming, which really just means all things education, which really means all things. Right. So, but I wanted to rant about this. And then I invited Yolanda to rant with me because I was so fired up. And I actually texted her when this happened. And then I called her and I made Yolanda speechless. That doesn't happen.
That is a rarity, I will say. This was definitely, I had no idea how to respond. And I'm a talker.
Yep.
So we'll see if I have found any words once you get going here.
Yeah, I still only have really not positive and professional words. So here's the story. Here's what happened. So I was in a unnamed place in an undisclosed location talking to an unnamed person.
Sounds very confidential. Top secret.
It's top secret. Now, this is somebody I don't know. I have never met before, but somebody who I will be interacting with in the future. So I think and not closely by any means, but definitely not now. Ooh, hopefully she won't listen to this. But so here's what happened. She approached me and said, you run the Set Me Free Project. And she said, so do you work with victims of human trafficking? And I said, no, we actually work with great organizations who do that. Our goal and job is the prevention education. So we go into schools. This is a quote of what I said. We go into schools and we talk to youth and adults about prevention education on human trafficking, social media safety, and healthy relationships. And her response was, okay, I'm pausing here because it's really bad. Her response was, so basically, you tell them to keep their legs closed.
Oh. So you didn't slap her.
I didn't. And probably the only reason that I didn't jump across the table that was in between us was because it caught me so off guard. Like I have not heard that phrase spoken in a very long time. And I certainly have never heard anyone speak of that in reference to someone who is being treated with ill intent, somebody who's being coerced and frauded into human trafficking. Now, here's the other thing.
Real victimization. I mean, it's real victimization. And
traumatic victimization.
Very traumatic. Yes.
Yeah. And this is, and here's the other thing. We talk to third graders when we go into the schools. Our audience are third graders through college age for youth. And so think, elementary to high school, if that's what you're saying. And we're talking about boys and girls. I don't get offended very often, and it takes a lot to offend me. But what I realized today is that it takes a lot to offend me if you're trying to offend me personally. So if you say something mean about my hair, you say something mean about my nose, whatever, that's you, right? But when you say something like that, to about young women, young men, older women, older men. I don't care who it is, human beings. How can you say that?
There's so much wrong with this. There's so many things wrong with this because, first of all, it's offensive regardless of what topic you're discussing.
Yes,
It's
it
very
is.
much, it's very much, you need to stop being
A slut.
a slut.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. And so that's offensive. That's not how you talk to anybody. That totally puts the focus on everything other than what we're working on, but also in any conversation that takes the focus away, it's very blamey, it's very
Yeah.
shamey.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's one issue, right? Which I could say a whole lot about that
Yeah.
in and of itself. Then we also have really, when you say close your legs, you're not talking to the boys.
You're not
talking
talking to
the men.
guys. Absolutely not.
You're talking to the girls.
Yep.
So what you're saying is,
It's your
and
fault.
it's your fault,
Mhm.
girls. If something
Mhm.
happens to you, you should have kept your legs closed and this wouldn't happen to you. And how what I have no words.
It's hard. It's hard to come up with the words because, okay, so here's my question too, and this is what I don't fully understand. But why even? Okay, so then let me just go forward, and my response, after it took me a little bit to process what was said, because I really had to process it. Like, what does that even mean in this context? What does it even mean? But what does it mean in this context? And so my brain couldn't compute that. But then, so then I said, and I don't think I sounded very nice at all, but my response was, no, we absolutely do not teach that. And who we are talking to are young kiddos who could potentially be victimized. I mean, I was floored, but I was not very nice. And she knew I was upset. She knew I was upset because I probably stared at her actually with a mad face for quite a while before I even said something. And when I said it, it probably sounded a little,
snarky.
But
lightly.
Snarky is maybe not the word I'd use, but yes. But then she realized what she had said offended me. And she said, well, I'm kidding, right?
Which is a whole nother level of offensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Because first of all, don't try to lie your way out of this. You said something very offensive and you meant it the way that you said it.
Right.
Secondly, even if it was a joke, which I'm pretty sure that it was not a joke, but even if it was a joke, it's still offensive.
It's still, why are we joking about that? Why would we, here's the thing, and this is what's so mind-blowing. So for those of you who don't know what we do, we go into schools and I think I already said this. I'm so fired up. I can't remember what I said, but when we present, whether it's to youth, when we present to adults, whoever it is, we bring a lot of engagement, we bring a lot of fun, and we actually bring a lot of humor, because statistics say, or studies have shown, that when we hear a topic with humor, we're able to learn it more efficiently and we're able to retain it better. So that's what we do. But we also say very clearly, we take our topic extremely seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously. So we're not joking about the topic. We're joking about other pieces within the conversation. We might be joking about ourselves, whatever, but we're certainly not joking about the topic. And I'm Yeah, I'm speechless.
So, and I think that that's really important what you just said, because we do go in and we are very humorous
Yeah,
in
we're
what we
hilarious.
do. And we have, yeah, very hilarious. But I don't know how, if you've not seen us speak before, it would be great for you to check out our YouTube. There's a couple things that Stephanie and I do
Yeah,
on there, and you can kind of see some of that. But and then if you're in the area, definitely book us
yeah,
and, get us out there, and you'll learn something, but you're going to have fun. We're not going to leave you with this sense of dread.
right.
And we toe that line very, very carefully, and we
Exactly.
balance it really, really well. And so when we are I might make fun of myself, like I might accidentally trip on, nothing on the floor and poke fun of myself in the middle of the conversation
Because it happens, right?
because it happens.
That's
Or
right.
I get tongue tied in my speaking, and like I speak for a living. Like,
Yeah,
what is this?
yeah,
What's happening here? Right. So I'm like kind of making fun, poking fun of myself a little bit and having fun with it in that way. And that sort of thing. But we really have strong boundaries
right.
about the topic being serious and not poking fun of it, not making light of it.
No,
And so the fact that she tried to say, oh, I was joking, right? In a situation where we already are bringing humor to our topic, and her joking, quote unquote, still offended us,
yeah,
it was pretty bad.
yeah.
And
It's hard to,
I don't want to, here's the thing too, is like, I'm so offended. And in this moment, it's challenging my core values of me as a person, because I don't want to shame or blame her.
you want to take her out, don't you?
I do want to take her out a little bit though. I kind of do. Like, I really have some issues with people who in their right mind
Hmm.
makes fun or jokes.
About the violent traumatization of a human being. I mean, let's call it what it is. And here's the other thing I said to Yolanda when we were talking about this in the car. And if I could have just pressed record, I think that would have been a great conversation. But I was driving, and it's not easy to
Road
listen to.
noise probably would have
Yeah,
made a great
all this stuff.
podcast, but
But I would love to actually have a conversation with this woman because she was of grandma age. And so I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, but I'm assuming she has at least children, if not grandchildren. And she may or may not. But what I would love to talk to her about is, okay, I want you to step back a little bit. And what you just said, I want you to imagine that again, and it goes back to, these are not those people over there that are getting trafficked because they're doing something wrong or because they live in a bad part of town. These are our kids. These are our grandkids. And it's in our home because of social media. So we're talking about people who are lured. We're talking about kids, we're talking about young adults, we're talking about human beings who are lured into a situation that is not something they recognize that is happening to them. So lady, if this is your grandchild, girl or boy, are you going to say you need to learn how to close your legs?
how victim blaming is that? I
Yeah.
mean, wow, there's so many layers, and every time you say something, I'm like, and there's another layer
Yep.
to it, and there's another layer to it. And and here's the deal, is she might have in her own head had innocent intentions with that.
Sure.
I
Sure.
don't believe that's true. But at the very least, she's uneducated
Yes.
and
Yes.
very tacky in the way in which she spoke about it. The problem with that, and some of you might think like, what's the big deal? She made a bad joke. Well, the problem with that is for individuals if we're saying this, joking or serious, these kinds of comments are the things that shut people down from
Mhm.
disclosing.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of things that make individuals who are in a situation feel like this is my fault and
Right.
I should be to blame. And I feel so much shame. I'm never going to get out. I'm never going to ask for help. I'm never going to go
Yeah.
back home. These are the kinds of things that indirectly perpetuate the issue of human trafficking
Yeah.
and so much other types of sexual violence and
Yep.
violence in general. And so
Absolutely.
not just our topic, not just the human trafficking topic, but so many
But
other things.
rape and what any sexual violence. Yeah. It's really hard to so that so when you talk about reporting, the reason that people are afraid to report are because they are afraid that number one, they will get blamed. Number two, somebody won't believe them. Those are the reasons people don't report. So why are we surprised? People who say, well, why don't they just report? Why don't they just tell somebody? Why would you not let somebody know? It's because of these kind of comments. It's because of these kind of thought processes. It's not even just the comment alone, but obviously this woman
Absolutely.
thinks, I mean, to make a joke about that, and I do err on the side that she thought she was being funny.
Mhm.
Whether, I mean, she may
Okay.
believe it, but I do think she was trying to be humorous. But that kind of thought process, because that would never cross my mind to find that funny. So there's some piece of that she believes, because she's not educated. So she believes, okay, yeah, if you just keep your legs shut, you're not going to get trafficked. If you just keep your legs shut, you're not going to get raped. If you just it's the most absurd thought process I have ever heard in my entire life. And instead of saying, hey, let's not traffic people, hey, let's not rape people, no, we're going to blame the victim because I don't know why.
And I wonder, so we had kind of talked a little bit about the different eras and having, like she was a little bit older,
Yeah,
and so maybe came from an era where that was a
more commonplace.
common
Yeah.
language, right? And there's other things like an aspirin between your knees and things like that,
Yeah,
different kinds of
I had never heard that, but
that.
yeah, I mean,
um
that'll keep your
and
legs closed if you have to
yeah,
hold
well,
it.
that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I wonder. Okay, I'm gonna go a little conspiracy theorist on you,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
Just a
Wow.
smidge here. Let's see. I wasn't planning on this, but let's see where this goes.
Okay, I'm fascinated now.
It feels to me, and totally feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, and let's talk about this because it's just hitting me now, and I'm probably way off base here. But it feels to me like this is brainwashing that has been done over history to make women feel less than. And I don't know. I
Well,
didn't.
okay. So I actually don't think that's even conspiracy theorist. I think that, okay, so just recently I went into a college classroom because the professor asked me to talk about sex work and talk about this professor, and this was like a women's studies, feminine sexuality. It was a very specific class name and I can't remember it. But the professor did not believe sex work was a viable profession, did not believe pornography was empowering. And a lot of the students in the class did. And so she was wanting to get an expert opinion on how is that empowering? Is it not empowering? That type of thing. And what does sex work really look like? So that's the conversation I had. But one of the things we talked about was pornography and the objectification of women through pornography, through exotic dancing, through any type of sex work. And that has been set up from the dark ages, right? That's been going on for I don't know how long, that we have been objectifying women through these things for profit. I mean, look at some of the commercials out there. So in a way, we have been saying, so if, I mean, it's no different than, oh, you were assaulted, what were you wearing?
Right. Right.
So I think you're right. I think there's been and I don't even know if it's a conspiracy or if it's a learned thing.
Behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I'm spitballing here and I don't have a whole lot of um words are not coming to me quite easily right now because I'm still so baffled by the situation, but it it boggles my mind how over time we have put such shame
Yeah.
on individuals in general
Right.
and how we have, especially, and we can talk about different sectors of the human race and sometimes we do. And today I'm just speaking specifically about women, but the objectification is very real.
Mhm.
And so then we have situations where there's objectifying going on in the commonplace. And then if anything happens to a female,
Mhm. Right.
it's their fault.
Right.
Where do we leave room for an individual who has been hurt to ever, one, identify it for what it is,
Right. Exactly.
and then two, to feel comfortable to ask for help?
Yeah.
So, I think about, like, we had a discussion at one point with another unnamed group in an unnamed location at a top secret place. Um, and
Undisclosed, most definitely undisclosed.
undisclosed.
Yes.
Okay. And the conversation was about whether or not you could identify that somebody is being trafficked if
Mm.
they don't identify as being trafficked.
Which
And
the
my
majority of trafficked individuals do not self-identify.
and the frustrating part to that is that there's so much already telling people objectification of women is okay.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of other human beings and whatever, it's a dog eat dog world.
Yep. Bring it
If
on.
if you ask for help, you're weak. If
Yep.
you ask for help, then you don't even know if people will believe you.
Mhm.
And so then people don't self-identify as a coping mechanism in
Right.
some cases. People may not come forward because they may not fully understand. So if somebody doesn't understand that they're being abused, then it's okay that they're being abused?
Yeah, it makes
Question mark.
right. And
I don't.
I've been very open on this podcast and other that I had been sexually assaulted, raped several times during high school and college. Had no idea that's what it was called because I assumed it was my fault. But if somebody had told me, this is what happened to you, could you imagine? I mean, what would I have said? You don't have the right to tell me what happened to me because you are, I mean,
Yeah, I think I don't I where I d- hmm, I'm 100% with you on that. I am so with you on that. I think where we can draw the line of what we can
mhm.
do is that if I were to say, let's use this, let's go with this example. Let's
Okay.
let's play this out a
Yeah.
little bit. So Stephanie, you don't identify, you're still in your younger age, and you're not knowledgeable about this particular topic, or you're in your own blame for
Right.
what has happened, or you're sitting in your own fault of, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have worn a different outfit, been in a different
Mhm.
place, been with a certain whatever. And I come to you and I say, and I find out what's going on with you as your friend, as your whatever. And Stephanie, that's actually called rape. And you can have, Stephanie, as you as an individual, you can have whatever feeling and opinion you want
Yes.
with that. You are allowed to be mad at me for suggesting that. You are allowed to be sad of the realization that you
Yep.
have been abused in such a way. You are allowed to be blown away and eyes opened
And
that
I'm allowed
this
to
isn't
deny
my fault.
it.
You're allowed to deny it.
Yep.
You're allowed to do all of those things. My role at that point doesn't mean I shove it down your
Nope.
throat and I force
Exactly.
you to get help. My role at that point is just to let you know I'm here for you.
That's right.
Let me know what support you can have. But it is important to share that information with you, Stephanie, that you had been, that's what this is called. And you have been raped, and it isn't your fault.
It isn't your fault. And that's the
That's so
difference.
important.
That's the difference. And that's the difference between saying, hey, I want to bring some education to you. I want to give you some knowledge, and I want to give you the ability to recognize what that could be, instead of saying, hey, just so you know, you are being da 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 da. That's
Mhm.
not the same thing. Yeah. Oh, but we've turned into this, well, I don't know if turned into, or we've always been, I mean, I think we've actually gotten a little bit more knowledgeable about these topics to some extent. And so, when she said what she said today, it really threw me for a loop, because I haven't heard anyone say that. We've been doing this for a long time and no one has said anything like that. But and I'd like to think that's because people are getting some education, getting some knowledge. I don't know. But can we please just be willing to learn, be compassionate? I mean,
Yes.
if I say the word human trafficking to you, which is the word I used, how do you equate? I mean, we know what drug trafficking is, right? Moving drugs, it's not good. Human trafficking involves humans. How do you equate that to stop being a slut?
I, it, I have no idea how you arrive from point A to point B in that situation like she did. I cannot even draw the line for you.
Mm-mm,
It does not compute in my head. And I think
mm-mm.
that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate that she feels that way. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate, like, and unfortunate is not even the word, doesn't even describe it, but
no. So when she told me that she was joking, I hope you know that I was just joking, because I think she recognized by the really nasty look on my face that I was not happy with her. I didn't even respond. I didn't say, oh, yeah, I knew you were joking, or not a joke. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. Like, I'm just like, I am so ashamed of you right now. It was so horrifying to me. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we gotta do better
we
than
got to
that,
do better. We've got to do better.
because these aren't those people. And even if they were
Well,
those people,
and I was just going to say, I mean, those people is so
there
convoluted of, because
there
those,
are no those people.
there
That's
are
my
no
point.
those people.
Right,
Yes, yes,
exactly.
exactly. There are no those people.
Right,
Everybody is somebody in this world. Everybody is somebody, someone's mother, sister, brother, aunt,
right.
uncle, whatever, uh, father, whatever, right? And
Human being.
human beings with value.
Yes.
And there is no those people. it is our human race,
Yeah.
and we all have a responsibility to be better than this.
Yes, and protect each other, have compassion for each other, look out for each other. I mean, we tell kids all the time when we're in schools, be advocates for each other. We want
Hmm.
you as peers to be advocates for each other. And we need to do that too. We have got to be advocates for each other. And if we're not willing to do that, my advice is keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Whew. I I feel better after ranting. I mean, I feel like I don't want to punch someone in the face.
This episode got very violent. Oh, well, I'm glad you feel better. And you know,
Ugh.
I'm so sorry that you had that experience, but at the same time, I'm glad that she ran into you and that
Mm,
you had the reaction that you did, even
yeah.
though it was slightly delayed because of the processing, which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally get. But I'm really proud of you. That is not what we do.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, and making it very clear that is not okay, what you
Yeah.
just said.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we always have to turn over tables and yell and scream to get our points across and
Mhm.
everything else. And I think what you did was simple and subtle. And I think it was, I don't, not even subtle. It was simple and it
Yeah.
was clear.
Yeah. It wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
She got to look at my mad face. That's probably
Yes.
not a look that you want to see.
And I'm really, really glad that she had that experience
Yeah.
with you. I'm sorry you had the experience
Yeah.
with her,
No,
but I'm glad she had the experience with you.
I agree, because could you imagine if she said that to somebody who was in a situation right then, or who had been traumatized in the past, or who had a sibling or a family member or a loved one? I mean, anybody else but me, you know?
Mhm.
I That would have been so awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for ranting with me on this. I really appreciate it. I'd like
Yeah.
to I'd like to
Wow.
do more rants with you.
Oh,
And
oh.
they don't have to be rants.
Well, we can I've got stuff. I get pretty fired up about some stuff. So
You
we
do?
could do
I
that.
have never experienced that.
And the sarcasm is thick in the room. Wow.
I can't help it. I can't
I
help it.
I do get pretty filed, especially around these topics, because I think it is so important just to treat
Yeah.
people with dignity. I mean, just basic human dignity. And, you know, at the end of the day, one of the things I feel like I might be opening a door here, and I know we're trying to close out, but you know, at the end of the day, we can all have differing opinions on things,
Right.
but being respectful
Yeah,
about that is very important.
it really
And
is.
this particular situation, I'm actually going I'm going a different direction in my head with that I'm not going to go down now, but in the future we can. But in this particular situation, I basically want to say her opinion is wrong.
I know. In this particular situation, respecting her would be wrong.
Yes. So
Well,
I feel like I
okay.
can't.
Can I just say, and I actually will, so I think what you're trying to say is we do need to respect everybody's opinion, but that wasn't an opinion. That was a disrespectful comment. And so, for example, so if somebody came up to you or I and said, like, made some sort of off the cuff sexual innuendo that was inappropriate, we would have every right to say, not acceptable. You will
Correct.
not talk to me like that. I will not tolerate it. I don't think that's the same as respecting someone's genuine opinion. That, yeah,
And I thank you for clarifying that. I think that's the direction I was trying to go with it is, you know, I want it to just be really clear. We're not here to say that she as a human being is horrible or anything like that. What she said, her action,
Right.
the
That was
comment that
horrible.
she made was horrific
Right.
and not acceptable whatsoever. And it has nothing to do with her opinions or her value system.
Right.
It has everything to do with disrespectful, not okay, and
And lack of education.
lack of education,
Yeah.
which is where we come in.
That's right. I think this is why what we do is so important, because this is a topic that so many people don't fully understand, which is fine, which is totally understandable. Before I understood it, I didn't understand it, if that makes any
Right.
sense, right?
Yes. You
So
don't know what you don't
you
know.
don't know what you don't know. And so I think that's where education comes in. Um, but I think if we don't have education in a topic, that may be where we leave the conversation alone. That I'm not gonna, I don't know. I can't even think of a good
Do you think that
example.
she felt like she didn't know? I wonder, if she had the filters in her head to stop her from that.
Yeah.
And I can't make it make sense because it makes no sense to me.
I really think she thinks so. You think about sex work slash prostitution. Okay. How many people think that that is, I mean, because we know that a very high percentage of people involved in sex work slash prostitution are actually being trafficked, right? So, but how many people? I mean, we've talked about prostitution for, it's the oldest profession. How many jokes about prostitution or prostitutes are there out there? A ton. How many people blame the prostitute for whatever it is? How many people think the prostitute's choice of profession, I don't know if you can see my air quotes, but their choice of profession is dirty and disgusting and revolting? That's the mindset she was coming from, in my opinion. That's what I think. And I think some people do separate prostitution and trafficking completely, so that it's, well, those are two very different things. They cannot be aligned at any time, which is not accurate. And then some people don't separate them enough so that, oh, if you're if you're a prostitute, I can't even, but she was coming from the place of the oldest profession, and that mindset, and that we're going into school saying, hey, if you don't want to become a prostitute, don't spread your legs. That's the best way to not become a prostitute. That's what I mean, that's the only thing I mean, I'm not justifying that. That's disgusting.
Right.
But I think that's where that mindset comes from, that lack of education.
So that's where we come in.
We have our work cut out for us, don't we?
We do. And we could have a couple more of these conversations with a few other things. And but if you are one who would love to hear more about this,
Yeah.
and you would like to have discussions about how to be compassionate with others
Mhm.
and show value and respect in everybody, please reach out to us
Yeah.
at the setmefreeproject.net. Actually,
No,
not
it's
with the
yeah,
setmefreeproject.net. I always do that wrong. And then our phone number is
402-521-3080. And I will make sure to put all of our socials, all of that stuff in the links or comments of the podcast. So we'll have that, and I'll try and post a picture of Yolanda dancing, because that's always fun. Will I get to?
You always threaten me with dancing, and
I
I'm
know,
just,
I like
it's
it.
not my thing. It's not my thing.
I've seen her dance. Come on, you're
And
good.
again, it's not my thing.
Okay. There will be no dancing available. However, um, we would love to have conversations. We do, even if you are not in this vicinity of our Midwest area, we we love to be online. We can do webinars, we can do all the things. So do contact us. We'd love to talk to you. This is a really important topic, and we want to make sure that it goes back to being that safe adult,
Mhm,
right? We want to be that
mhm.
safe adult. We want to be that person that our kiddos, our grandkiddos, students, whomever can come to us, young adults can come to us and say, hey, this is happening and I don't know what to do. And our response is not judgmental. Our response is compassion and empathy, and let me try and help you with these resources or whatever. So yeah, this was a good
Absolutely.
conversation. Maybe it was good. She got me all fired up.
Yeah, well, thanks, Stephanie, for being at that undisclosed location at that undisclosed time.
Yes, at that undisclosed place with that undisclosed lady.
Mhm.
And it's a good thing I didn't punch her in the face, because I would be in jail and then you'd have to bail me out. That would not be good.
Well, I
Yeah.
have no smart response to that. I'm glad you didn't go to jail.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad we have an opportunity to vent and rant. And I appreciate your time, Yolanda. And thank you for listening to us on the Being Resilient podcast. And we will have all that information available. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you. Bye.